You're standing on a floating city, 5,000 people, middle of the ocean, no Walmart, no pizza delivery, and somehow everyone needs to eat 3 meals a day, take a shower, and find a place to sleep. Oh, and this floating city also happens to launch fighter jets every 90 seconds, while traveling at 30 knots. Welcome to life aboard a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, where the logistics of keeping humans alive make rocket science look like a hobby project. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you about aircraft carriers. They're self-contained ecosystems that have to function 24/7 for months at a time without pulling into port. No breaks, no weekends, no calling in sick because you had too much to drink last night. And every single system, from the showers to the kitchen, has been engineered within an inch of its life to keep this machine running. So how does it actually work? Keep watching and find out. Let's start with the most important question. Food. If you're going to spend 6 months floating around the Pacific, you better be eating well, or at least eating something. Here's a number that'll make your head spin. Ford, the Navy's newest and fanciest carrier, serves roughly 17,000 meals per day. Not per week, per day. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations for a crew that never sleeps because the ship never stops. Do the math on that? If each meal costs even $5 in ingredients, you're burning through 85 grand a day just to keep people fed. Over a 6-month deployment? That's $15 million in food alone. Suddenly your grocery bill doesn't seem so bad, which is Navy speak for kitchens. The main galley can seat about 250 people at once. Sounds spacious until you remember there are 5,000 people on board. The math doesn't exactly work in your favor, so the galley runs continuously. Breakfast starts at 6 a.m., and by the time dinner wraps up around 8 p.m., they're already prepping for the midnight meal, which kicks off at 11. Then the whole circus starts again at 6 the next morning. It's like running a 24-hour diner, except your diner is moving at 35 miles per hour, and occasionally people are landing 30-ton aircraft on your roof. The menu rotates on a 3-week cycle, which sounds great until you realize that on a 6-month deployment, you're eating the same rotation 8 times. By month 4, everyone on the ship knows it's Taco Tuesday. But because it's literally the same tacos you had 21 days ago, and 21 days before that, some sailors report they can tell what day of the cycle it is just by the smell coming from the galley. That's either impressive or deeply depressing. Probably both. But here's where it gets interesting. The carrier has to store enough food to last weeks at sea. We're talking about industrial-scale stockpiling. Carries about 2,000 pounds of flour. Sounds like a lot? That's gone in a week. They go through 1,600 pounds of chicken per day. That's roughly 800 whole chickens. Every single day, for 6 months. Oh, and 350 pounds of lettuce daily. The storage required for this is absurd. Multiple refrigerated compartments, massive freezers, dry storage areas that would make Costco jealous. And this food doesn't magically appear. Every few weeks, a supply ship pulls alongside and the crew conducts what's called an underway replenishment. Picture this. You're moving at 20 knots. The supply ship is matching your speed. Cables stretch between the two ships and pallets of food get winched across while both vessels are in motion. It's like grocery shopping. Except the grocery store is 1,000 feet away. You're both driving at highway speeds, and if something goes wrong, a pallet of frozen chicken could end up in the Pacific. Fun times. Now let's talk quality. Military food has a reputation, and it's not always flattering, but carrier food is actually pretty decent. The Navy knows that morale is directly tied to what's on your plate, so they invest in real cooks, not just people who can heat up MREs. There are professionally trained culinary specialists on board. These aren't your stereotypical mess hall slingers. Some have gone to actual culinary school. They're making eggs to order at breakfast, carving roast beef at lunch, and somehow pulling off Sunday surf and turf dinners with lobster tails and steak. Granted, the steak might be frozen for 3 months before it hits your plate, but still, it's steak, on a warship, in the middle of nowhere. The midnight meal, or midrats, is its own culture, and it's usually leftovers from dinner plus whatever the cooks can whip up with what's lying around. Sometimes you get lucky with fresh-baked cinnamon rolls at 2 a.m., other times it's mystery casserole and a prayer. Midrats develops a cult following. There are sailors who will trade watch schedules just to make sure they can hit mid-rats on lobster night. Priorities. But eating isn't just about the food. It's about the time. Most crew members get maybe 20 minutes to eat. You're not lingering over coffee and catching up on the news. You grab your tray, shovel food in your face, and get back to work. Because somewhere on this ship, a plane is about to launch, or an engine needs maintenance, or someone's got to make sure the nuclear reactor doesn't do anything weird. Time is a luxury nobody has. All right, food sorted. Or more accurately, attempting to sleep while living inside a metal box that shakes, rattles, and occasionally sounds like the world's ending. Here's the reality. Most sailors don't have their own room. They don't even have their own bed. Exactly. They have a rack. If you've never seen a carrier berthing area, imagine a submarine but worse. Sometimes 4, bolted to the bulkhead in massive compartments that house 60 to 200 people at once. Each rack is roughly 6 feet long, 3 feet wide, and maybe 2 feet of vertical space between you and the person above you. Claustrophobia isn't optional. It comes standard. Your rack is your entire personal space. That's it. That's where you sleep, store your stuff, and occasionally question your life choices. There's a tiny curtain for privacy, which is hilarious because privacy doesn't exist when you're sleeping 2 feet from 80 other people. You've got a small locker for clothes and personal items. Some sailors rig up hooks for phones and headphones. Others stash snacks. One guy probably has an entire home entertainment system, somehow rigged up in there. The ingenuity is impressive. The sleeping situation gets even weirder thanks to something called hot racking. Not every sailor gets their own rack. On some carriers, especially older ones or during surge operations, 3 sailors might share 2 racks. You work your shift, crawl into a rack that someone just crawled out of, sleep for 6 hours, then get up and someone else takes your spot. The rack is literally still warm. Hence hot racking. It's efficiency at its finest and also mildly horrifying. Now let's talk about the noise. Because this is not a quiet environment. You're sleeping next to a flight deck where F-18C are launching and landing. Even deep in the ship you can hear it. The catapults make this unmistakable metallic shunk sound every time they fire. It happens every couple of minutes during flight ops. The arresting cables that catch landing planes make a screaming whine that sounds like a giant guitar string snapping. And that's just the flight deck. The ship itself is a symphony of mechanical chaos. Ventilation hums constantly. Hatches clang shut. Somewhere, something is always beeping. New sailors can't sleep for days. Your body has to adapt. Eventually, you train yourself to sleep through anything. There are sailors who can sleep through a full flight cycle, a fire drill, and their buddy's alarm going off 6 inches from their head. It's a superpower born of necessity. Then there's the motion. The ocean doesn't care that you're tired. Carriers are big enough that they don't rock too much in normal seas, but hit rough weather and everything changes. Your rack starts swaying. You're rolling back and forth. Some people get seasick just trying to sleep. Others rig up creative solutions, wedging pillows or bags around themselves so they don't slide out of their rack in the middle of the night. Because nothing says good morning, like waking up on the floor of a berthing compartment at 3 a.m. Sleep schedules are brutal. Forget 8 hours. Most sailors are running on 6 if they're lucky. Watch rotations mean you might work 12 hours on, 12 off. Or worse, rotating shifts where your body never quite adjusts because you're working days one week and nights the next. Sleep deprivation is just part of the job. The Navy has done studies on this. They know it's not ideal, but when you're operating a nuclear-powered floating airport that never shuts down, someone's got to be awake at all times. And that someone is everyone, just at different times. Okay, so you've eaten, you've slept, now you need to shower. And this is where things get really interesting. A carrier makes its own fresh water. It has to. You can't exactly pull into a marina and fill up the tanks every few days. The ship uses desalination, sucking in seawater, and running it through reverse osmosis systems that strip out the salt and impurities. These systems can produce around 400,000 gallons of fresh water per day. Sounds like a lot until you divide it among 5,000 people who all need to drink, shower, cook, and operate complex machinery. This is why Navy showers are a thing. You've probably heard the term, here's how it works. Turn on the water, get wet. Turn off the water, soap up. turn on the water, rinse off, turn off the water. Done. You're in and out in under 2 minutes if you're efficient. It's not a spa experience. It's functional hygiene. And if you linger too long, someone's going to bang on the stall and yell at you for wasting water. The shower facilities themselves are communal. Serrate rows of shower heads in a tiled room. No privacy stalls on some of the older carriers, though newer ones have individual stalls with curtains. You're showering with a dozen other people and everyone's in a hurry because there's always a line. The water pressure is hit or miss. Sometimes it's fine. Other times, it feels like you're being gently misted by a garden sprayer. Temperature control is a joke. You get what you get, and some days what you get is lukewarm at best. Here's the kicker. During water hours, if the ship is running low on fresh water, they'll impose water restrictions. Showers might only be available during certain hours. Or worse, they'll secure the showers entirely for a day. Nothing builds character like going 48 hours without a shower, while working a physically demanding job in a confined space with 5,000 other people. The smell in berthing compartments during water restrictions is legendary. Not in a good way. Laundry is another adventure. The ship has industrial washing machines and dryers, but with 5,000 people trying to wash clothes, you're looking at a wait. Some sailors do laundry at 2 a.m. just to avoid the crowd. You bag up your uniforms, toss them in, and hope someone doesn't steal your stuff while it's washing. Does it happen? Yep. People have had entire sea bags walk off. On a ship, in the middle of the ocean. Where exactly are you going with someone else's laundry? Doesn't matter. It still happens. Toilets. Oarheads in Navy speak are another shared experience. Rows of stalls. Sometimes they work great. Other times, the plumbing backs up and you're dealing with problems that are best left unmentioned in polite company. The Navy has an entire rating hull maintenance technicians who spend their days making sure the toilets, showers, and plumbing keep working. These are unsung heroes, because when the heads go down on a ship with 5,000 people, things get desperate fast. But let's zoom out for a second, because all of this, the food, the sleeping, the showers, it's all happening while the ship is doing its actual job. Launching planes, running drills, conducting operations. The crew isn't just living on this ship. They're working around the clock to keep it operational. Engineers are monitoring the nuclear reactors. Weapons specialists are maintaining missiles and bombs. It's a 24/7 operation. And somehow, in between all of that, people still need to eat, sleep, and stay clean. Everything on a carrier runs on a schedule. Meal times, watch rotations, maintenance periods, flight operations. There's a rhythm to it, and once you learn it, you fall into the pattern. You know when to eat, when to sleep, when to shower. It becomes automatic. And that routine is what keeps 5,000 people from descending into chaos while living in a space that's only about 1,100 feet long. Speaking of space, let's talk about what happens during downtime. Because even on a carrier, people get a few hours off here and there. The ship has a gym, multiple gyms, actually, treadmills, weights, equipment. Sailors work out to burn off stress and stay in shape. There's a small store, kind of like a 7-Eleven but floating. You can buy snacks, toiletries, energy drinks. There's a barber shop, a post office, even a small chapel for religious services. Some carriers have a TV station that broadcasts movies and shows throughout the ship. Sailors gather in common areas to watch. It's not Netflix. It's whatever movies the Navy has licensed. And you're watching on a tiny screen in a room full of people, but it's something. There are also video game rooms, though good luck getting time on a console when everyone wants to play. Some sailors bring their own handheld systems and play in their racks during off hours. But here's the truth. Downtime is limited. Most sailors are working 12 to 16-hour days, sometimes more during high-tempo operations. You grab sleep when you can, eat when you have time, and squeeze in a shower when the opportunity presents itself. It's not glamorous. It's exhausting, but it's also weirdly normal once you're in it. The human body adapts. The mind adjusts. And somehow life aboard a carrier just becomes life. There's a camaraderie that develops. You're living in close quarters with the same people for months. You see them at their best and their worst. You know who snores, who sleep talks, who takes forever in the shower. You share meals, share watches, Share the experience of being stuck on a boat in the middle of nowhere. Friendships form fast. Rivalries too. But mostly, there's a sense that you're all in this together. And when the deployment finally ends, and the carrier pulls back into port, there's this collective exhale. You can sleep in a bed that doesn't move. Take a shower with unlimited hot water. Eat food that wasn't frozen 3 months ago. Walk more than 1,000 feet in a straight line. It's the little things you miss. But here's what nobody tells you. After a few weeks on shore, some sailors actually miss it. Miss the routine. Miss the purpose. Miss the weirdness of living on a floating city that defies logic. Because for all its challenges, life on a carrier is unlike anything else. It's 5,000 people eating, sleeping, and showering together while operating one of the most complex machines ever built. And somehow, it works. So next time you see an aircraft carrier on the news, launching planes and projecting power, remember this: behind all that firepower are thousands of people just trying to grab a meal, catch some sleep, and maybe take a decent shower. And that's the real miracle of a carrier. Not the jets, not the weapons, but the fact that humans figured out how to live and work together in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. And they do it every single day. Thanks for watching. And if you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. See you next time.